Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Lots to talk about with our Another View Roundtable pundits, including riveting testimony from fired FBI Chief James Comey before the Senate Intelligence Committee, racial slurs, a hung noose, and losing your life while defending two Muslim girls. That's what racism in 2017 looks like. President Trump may say no to the Paris Accord on climate change, but many mayors say yes. Dr. Ben Carson says poverty is just a state of mind. And the latest on the Bill Cosby trial. Hampton University's Dr. Eric Claville, community activist Bill Thomas, and journalist and talk show host Wil LaVeist are here. It's the Another View Roundtable, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Every topic we have today for the Another View Roundtable could take an hour on its own to discuss, but we've got 1 hour to get it all in, so let's get started. Dr. Eric Claville is a professor of history and political science at Hampton University. Eric, hey.
Hey, Barbara. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
Great.
Bill Thomas is our resident community activist. How you doing, Bill? Bill, are you playing music?
Life is beautiful. I'm going to cut this off.
That would be Bill's iPad playing his favorite music. How you doing
off the
there?
airplane, so they would kick me off.
That song is unlike Bill.
I'm trying to wonder what in the world. But welcome. It's good being here today.
I'm glad you're
I'll
here.
keep that off. I don't know how to use it.
And we have journalist, talk show host, and author Wil LaVeist. Now, Will has just released a new book called Dear Daddy.
Dear Daughter.
Oh, Dear Daughter. I'm sorry. Dear Daughter. That's right. And he will talk about it on Another View on June 23rd. Hey, Will.
Appreciate it, Barbara.
Not a problem.
Appreciate the support.
Really looking forward to that conversation. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation, too. So let's get started. So there were 4 hours, including the closed session, of much anticipated testimony from former FBI Chief James Comey before the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday. Now let's listen to some of the testimony.
The administration then chose to defame me and, more importantly, the FBI by saying that the organization was in disarray, that it was poorly led, that the workforce had lost confidence in its leader. Those were lies, plain and simple.
Do you have any doubt that Russia attempted to interfere in the 2016 elections?
None.
Do you have any doubt that the Russian government was behind the intrusions in the DNC and the DCCC systems and the subsequent leaks of that information?
No doubt.
What was it about that meeting that led you to determine that you needed to start putting down a written record?
A combination of things. I think the circumstances, the subject matter, and the person I was interacting with. Circumstances first, I was alone with the President of the United States, or the President-elect, soon to be President. The subject matter, I was talking about matters that touch on the FBI's core responsibility and that relate to the President-elect personally, and then the nature of the person. I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document. That combination of things I'd never experienced before, but it led me to believe I got to write it down, and I got to write it down in a very detailed way.
So first time head of a major agency within the government calling the president a liar, basically. And Mr. Trump responded by tweet this morning calling Mr. Comey a liar. So, Eric, wow. Why don't you start? What were your thoughts on the events of yesterday?
Yeah, well, first of all, leading up to the testimony, I had my pot of coffee and sitting there for the 2.5 hours doing the testimony. There were no bombshells that were dropped. There was no smoking gun that was released. What we did hear was credibility and character of one against the credibility and character of another. One thing that I found very telling about former Director Comey's testimony is that he talked about his process and how he goes about to determine these various issues when he was director. He spoke with his inner circle of advisors. He made sure that they were aware of the things that took place, and he made sure that he had safety in a multitude of counsel. I think that shows leadership. I think that shows character. I think that shows the type of person that you want in a position, especially as a prosecutor. But I want people to also understand something that he stated, and I've said this before, that Russia did interfere in our elections. That has been agreed upon by everyone in Congress now. It's been agreed upon by our 17 intelligence agencies, and they have to pay, okay? So that is a done deal. And I believe that as we dig deeper into this, he also stated that he couldn't say certain things in open session. And keep in mind that Senate, all right, group they've heard very classified information. They understand, what's at stake. Okay, there were nobody was attacking the credibility of Comey. Nobody was telling him he was a liar because they've heard and seen the evidence. Okay, so what we're looking at is something extremely serious. All right, and something that I believe it's going to buffer us against military buildup, and aggression of Russia against Eastern Europe and former Soviet blocs. And I think we're going to be in a military buildup by 2018 and full-scale war by 2019.
Bill, were you surprised that in all the exchange between Comey and the president that President Trump never said, what should we do about the fact that Russia has interfered with our elections?
Russia has been interfering with American and other elections for the past 75 years. It's just a fact.
How do you know that?
They have been. Oh, in various ways. Number one, by just taking land and killing the leaders, and by other ways. But they've been involved in everything.
But I mean, now that this has come out so publicly, isn't there something that we should be doing to stop it?
No, I'm really concerned. Here's my concern. Our intelligence agencies haven't been doing anything about it for the past 25 years. Not just now. This is no surprise. They've been doing this forever.
So you saying it's no surprise in terms of what the president asked of Mr. Comey and so forth?
Let's just get into present-day history.
Okay.
President Obama and our 17 agencies, supposedly intelligence agencies, knew about it in July. Why have they not done anything about it? Why didn't they do anything about it?
No, you're saying they knew about the fact that that Russia was interfering in the election since July.
Absolutely. They did nothing.
Okay, but they're not in office anymore.
Doesn't
what about
matter.
The current?
I'm just saying now. So no, but see, y'all take this as being funny. It really is seriously.
No, it's very serious.
It's very a serious problem. Mm-hmm. Comey came there just like he had practiced this little whatever he had yesterday for hours, which he did. So I agree with that. Mm-hmm. That was manufactured. I mean, that was already processed. That was a TV show that he did. It's quite awful, to tell you the honest God truth. Number one, here's a man, 6'8" in stature. Mm-hmm. He's an FBI guy. I read a story in the Wall Street Journal the other day where an FBI agent was fired for stealing a 26-cent piece of wire at a hardware store because it's about integrity, morals, and values. Mm-hmm. Here's a man who knew something about a possible, just say, for instance, I don't believe Mr. Donald J. Trump, President Trump, is a Russian agent or anything, but according to you guys, or according to them, there's some serious issues going on here. Why is he president then? Why hasn't something been done about that? Why don't we know for a fact what the hell's going on?
Well, isn't that what the intelligence community is supposed to, the intelligence committee and the special prosecutor will?
Will get there, but I'm going to finish up. But so when they organized these 17 agencies to take care of this thing and put this in this pathway, that was done by the former president. That's cool and that's all okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying leading up to that, nothing was done. I mean, if this man had any, I can't say the words, 6'8" guy, I'm in my office with him, and I'm the FBI guy, I'm this big, strong guy, and I know somebody is telling me something that's illegal, immoral, and un-American. I'm not going to stand up like a man and tell him, no, this is it. I'm protecting America.
So you're saying that he should have said something to
I have
Mr.
no
Trump.
respect for this man right now, less than ever before. For him to sit up there knowingly knowing, according to him, that something was wrong, which I don't believe it was wrong, and a bunch of attorneys are saying it's nothing unconstitutional what President Trump did, but he said nothing. Oh, I didn't feel what did he say? It was too challenging for me to stand up to the truth.
He said honestly, I don't know why I didn't
He should
say
have been
anything.
fired. He's been fired long ago when he absolutely lost the election for Hillary Clinton, and I'm upset about that.
Okay, Will.
So Barbara, to answer your question, as Bill has skillfully done the political tap dance, is that yes, it should be concerning to all of America that Trump's focus is not on the fact that the disruptions did happen concerning the election, that his main emphasis was on putting the word out there that you are
He is
not directly. I am not directly, personally under investigation.
Is he?
Comey said that he is not.
Well, Comey said that while he was FBI director.
No,
Now, we don't know if he is now or not.
So what it means and why Comey was reluctant to say that, and he was clear on that, is that for him to say and put out the statement, he is not personally under investigation, knowing how these investigations work. They go their process, and by the time you start at point A and you end up at point D, F, Z, you're on to something totally different. So it could lead to him being under investigation. So to answer your question, it should be a concern of all of America that the elections were disrupted and tampered with, and that our president was mainly concerned about his own image, his own perception, the own cloud. That's what
he said.
It
was a
so
cloud
far.
over his head, according to Comey. That there was a cloud over his head, and he was not able to govern in the way that he needs to because he has this cloud hanging over his head. Eric
and Barbara, also understand by the president's own words. I mean, he constantly. I mean, he has a shovel that he's digging himself in a hole that he cannot get out of. Every single day with every single bonehead remark that he makes. But he told, and he released classified information to Russian adversaries, saying, "Oh, I got rid of that guy, so this Flynn thing is good." All right, that has been reported. That has not been refuted. He has stated that. Okay, but what we're seeing, Comey is a process guy, and Will is correct. He understands the process, and Special Investigator Mueller, he is going to go through this process. Things are very tight-lipped in that process, and you're going to look at about a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years before the ultimate report comes out. But you got several guys. Flynn, everyone knows that Flynn broke the law, and he's got at least 5 years of federal prison he's looking at minimum. But as you continue to go through and peel that onion back, you're going to get more and more. Paul Manafort is another gentleman who's dropped off the map, which is a good thing, but he understands that he is also looking at some very hard time. You have
Roger Stone.
Stone,
maybe
possible.
Yeah, what? These people haven't been convicted of anything.
Jared Kushner,
no,
as
but they're looking. They're investigating.
That's the whole point. The whole discussion is about there is an investigation into whether or not something illegal happened. That's what we're doing.
But
that's
you're
what
not
the story
convicted
is.
by rumors and innuendos. Comey did the same thing. He leaked information.
He didn't leak any information. He simply released his own personal.
That's not personal.
Though.
That's government information. And I know from my little advancement.
Put that music back on. You're dancing. You might as well let's dance to it. You're not dancing. The point is there's an investigation.
Okay.
Let the process go forward, and that's what we're focused on.
Let's talk to Vernon in Newport News. Hi, Vernon. You're on the air. Hello, Vernon. You're on the air. Hello?
He's listening to my music.
Okay. Well, for some reason, we can't get Vernon, so we'll move on. Let me ask you guys a question then about, is he there? Okay, then let's try Alicia in Virginia Beach. Alicia, you're on the air.
Yes, hi.
Hi. We can't hit. Hold on one second. Alicia, are you speaking directly into your mic, into your phone? So apparently we must be having some phone issues. So we'll come back to that. But let me ask you, gentlemen, about the amount of interest that this country showed in terms of watching this the hearings from yesterday. People took off work. People were in bars. They were all over the place. I mean, is this civics, Eric, you were talking about, in action, or did everybody just think that it was going to be so salacious and juicy they just couldn't resist?
No, the American public they're very nervous. Okay, I've gone to some political forums with federal elected officials. I've had U.S. senators, U.S. congressmen. And one of the major questions that were coming out very early in this administration was, I'm staying up late at night because I'm worried about Russia. I mean, we've had Russian ships off the coast of Virginia. We've had Russian aircraft flying very close to our ships in oceans outside of our borders. People are very afraid and people are very worried. And they should be, because we have a president who is making a mockery of the office of president. He's performing, just buffoonery at his highest level, okay? You have over 500 senior level positions that they can't fill. Nobody wants to go there. You have White House officials and people working there that are asking, should I get my personal attorney? Okay. There's nothing that's going to get done in this presidential cycle. There's no legislative package that's coming out. The Republicans themselves are on their heels. They're afraid every single day of what's going to come out.
But is that really true? Well,
No.
because there's some things going on behind the scenes in terms of, didn't they just do something with banking this week?
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and some other things that people really aren't paying attention to.
Yeah, and I think that is of the utmost importance. If the Republicans had done several things to roll back certain advances and things that were done by the Obama administration. We're looking at the budget that was presented and huge cuts to HUD. And then we may be talking about Ben Carson later. And his reaction to that seems to be, well, the cuts really don't matter. And it's in his department. And a lot of people are going to be impacted. So I think that the risk that we have here is that people will get so caught up in the theater of the Comey situation or the FBI situation, this situation, and kind of have like a Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill moment where we just sort of watching TV and being gripped as opposed to really fully being engaged and understanding what our government is really doing on the local areas as well. So hopefully all of this will inspire people to get engaged, but not just engaged because of the theater, but really get engaged and see what is really going on.
Okay, Bill.
I'm sad to hear my colleague talk about the President of the United States in such diminishing ways. This is dangerous. This is truly dangerous. There's a group of people out there, they happen to be white, they happen to be hardworking, the coal miners, low-income, uneducated people. They're upset. Those are the people that are upset. You really want to get down to basics. None of these people that you have mentioned, that's slander. They haven't been convicted of anything. If they do, then let the process work. But right now, to talk about our president and call him demonic and stupid and idiot, we're better than that. We're better than that. And just Hampton University Center for Policy just completed a poll in Virginia on the upcoming election for the governors and the statewide election. The number one issue is jobs. Virginians want jobs and opportunities. The banking laws have been changed. The issues, I was working in Washington the other day, working very hard in Bethesda trying to get stuff done about disparities among African Americans who don't have access to treatments that's going to help them with all of our dilemmas. This is nothing but theater. If Mr. Trump has done something that's illegal, un-American, or unconstitutional, let the process work. In the meantime, let's stop all this name-calling by some of our so-called Christians. Let's give the man a chance.
Okay,
but Barbara, quickly, part of the problem is that some of the budgets and some of the issues that are being advanced are actually going to hurt those very same voters. Some of those, I mean,
all of those
come back to HUD. You're talking about funds that will go to people who are in dire straits and in need of being able to get some kind of transition hand up. There's he mentioned disparities. There's a direct correlation between your zip code, where you live, your environment, and your health outcomes. That and African Americans with health disparities is in hospice mode, and there's a direct correlation. You can look at past history in housing trends, housing policies. So that's the point that he's making policies. I'm not finished. I didn't cut you off.
There you go, sir.
He's making policies that hurt the very people who voted for him, and as Bill correctly says, wanted change, want better outcomes for their life,
want jobs,
and that's what's happening.
And we're going to talk about Mr. Carson in just a moment, as a matter of fact. But our phone lines are lit up, and I'm hoping that the phones are working now. Let's go to Vernon in Newport News. Vernon, are you there this time?
Yes, I'm here, Barbara.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Look, the whole story is here, and Professor Claville probably got this whole down, but he can't say it because we don't want to be sued. Manafort has been influencing the Republican Party, the particular leaders of the Republican Party, getting them primed and accepting of Russia's presence in the United States. And they influenced the voters. They influenced by propaganda, by changing the message, by fake news and every other thing. And we and cause them to think that a narcissistic bully could save this country from the fact that it is going to be diversified. It is going to be multicultural. It is going to be multiracial.
Okay.
So it's the whole point is, and he's destroying institutions. They're taking things apart. I understand that Republicans believe in less government. That's fine. But Republicans don't believe in destroying the government, but they're going right along with it just so they can maintain that power of having the presidency, all three branches. Well, technically all two branches.
Okay, Vernon, thanks so much for the call. You want to react first, Bill?
I don't know how to react. If you believe, Vernon, if you don't do your own homework, if you don't get a book and read it, or a newspaper to get a multiplicity of ideas and opinions, and if you believe in what you read on TV and stuff, I can't help you. With healthcare disparities, we're working hard with the Trump administration to influence changes that are really going to get at the net effects of what needs to be done by strengthening HBCUs, by looking at cohorts of these different diseases and getting people to do things to make changes. My question is, nothing has changed let's just go to the last 50 years to impact poor white or black people in America. It's just not black folks that are suffering.
Well, Bill, now that they're cutting, I mean, he put his budget out, and it's being slashed even more. So
nothing is being slashed. It's being negotiated, Barbara. It's being negotiated. Nothing has been slashed.
So you don't think that it's going to?
No, it is definitely not going to be what was first put out.
Okay.
It's definitely not going to be that.
Okay. At least go ahead, Eric.
Barbara, if I could really, I think Vernon actually did his homework, and he's right 110%. You do have fear in the country by a group of individuals, large group of individuals that are a voting bloc for this president that fear this country being diversified. And what Will was saying is also correct. The government that we have, they are destroying the institution. You have someone who's creating policy, Steve Bannon, who's destroying the institution itself. You have Mulvaney, who is the OMB representative in the White House, who put out
Office of Budget Management.
Yes, who actually put out the budget of the president. That is slashing the funds and the resources to help all Americans, and more specifically, the Trump supporters. A lot of them that thought that he was going to bring things back to where they were. They're actually going to be in worse trouble than they were before.
Okay, let's go to Alicia in Virginia Beach. Hi, Alicia, you're on the air.
Hi. I just want to say that Mr. Comey's height has nothing to do with whether or not he said anything at the moment when President Trump asked him to come in and speak. Mr. Comey showed respect for the office, the presidency office. And Mr. Trump warrants all the names and all the labels that are being attached to him because he has demonstrated those actions and that behavior. And he has split this country in more ways than one can count. And it's sad.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. Anybody want to respond to Alicia?
This country's always been split. There's nothing changed. Some black people don't like white people, and some white people don't like black people. I mean, that's been the history. Some Jews don't like Christians, and some Christians don't like Catholics. That's always been true.
I would agree with that. I don't think that President Trump has himself split the country. I think if you want to go back to Obama, I think 8 years of really not dealing head on and honestly with these undercurrent issues did not help and created the environment as those who wanted to have power to manipulate all of these differences and really bring it to a height is what we've seen.
Okay, let's move on to the other topics because we have a lot to try to get to. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about current events with the Another View Roundtable. Dr. Eric Claville of Hampton University, community activist Bill Thomas, and journalist, author, and talk show host Wil LaVeist. Okay, the head of Housing and Urban Development, as you guys have already mentioned, Dr. Ben Carson, says poverty is just a state of mind. Let's take a listen.
I think poverty to a large extent is also a state of mind. You take somebody who has the right mindset, you can take everything from them and put them on the street. And I guarantee you, in a little while, they'll be right back up there. And you take somebody with the wrong mindset, you can give them everything in the world. They'll work their way back down to the bottom.
Well, is that an example of blaming the victim, or what do you think about that?
I think it's hard to say anything other than that. I mean, I mean, he's talking about right mindset and wrong mindset. You know, again, I think language and words are really important. I really think that when it comes to Ben Carson, that we really need people who are thinking about these issues, who spend time on these. Instead of running from and isolating him, they should really engage him. They should really engage and educate and say, look, you're in this position. Let's work together and see what we can move forward on. You're a doctor. You understand the connection between, like I said earlier, housing and health outcomes. Speak to him in that language that he understands and help him to, instead of talking extemporaneously and off the cuff, prepare remarks, because words matter. And if he prepares his marks and thinks thoroughly about what he wants to say, he won't have to find himself going back and retracting and try to clean up his office.
Bill, don't you think, though, also that because of Ben Carson's upbringing, that people would expect him to be a little more empathetic to those who are poor?
I was going to say no, but blank no. He's an individual, regardless of color, whose mother set the stance for him, who raised her children without the benefit of a man supporting her, as I understand it. She couldn't read, made sure that her children read. She made the sacrifices that parents does. He is where he is because of his mother. And like I always say, single moms are the strongest institution we have in our community. But I'm just saying that's what made him. And he's an individual. He has a right to think any kind of way he wants to think. What difference does it make?
But if he's running, Eric, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and believe me, I have a personal interest in this as the chair of Norfolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority, because we are now examining our public housing and what's going to be happening with it and so forth. And the city of Norfolk is paying a lot of attention also. And people, I think, want to connect, but they're not quite sure where he's coming from.
Sure. And actually, I think a lot of people are going in hard on this particular comment unfairly. I understand what Dr. Carson was trying to say. I really do. And what he was trying to say is basically that if a person has the education and the will and the environment to forge them to become a well-rounded person to succeed, then yeah, take everything away from them and they're going to find a way to get back, meaning that they're going to go through that process. But if a person doesn't have that environment, a person doesn't have that education, a person doesn't have that group to tell them you can do it, right, you can be this, then they will not. I do agree with Will that you have to engage him, because a lot of our secretaries in these agencies, they can do a lot of things unilaterally that doesn't have to go through Congress. You don't have to get the president to sign off on it. That can really make a lot of impact. I think what ends up happening is that their comments kind of push people off. But at the same time, when someone is in power and they're going to be there for a moment, it's you have to engage them. But it takes a lot of humility to do that. And in politics, we know politics and humility are direct opposites of each other. But at the same time, I think that he's probably in one of the most valuable positions in government right now, because the policies that we set under HUD, keep in mind, HUD is just not just housing, but it's called
urban development too.
And yes, human development.
Yes.
Human development.
Yes.
How do we develop the human being? Okay. And the policy we can set around that.
Barbara, see, that's ridiculous. I love you all the death in the world. But right during the inauguration, I met with him. Sit down with him.
Ben Carson?
That is correct.
Okay.
And his wife, to try to get a better understanding, to engage him and the understanding of how he can help us move the needle. And actually, I even told you, if I could, we'll try to get him down to Norfolk Redevelopment Housing Authority. And that was months ago. Rather than cursing the wind, I know what he's trying to do. But the institutions that emboldened us before, our churches, used to have that message every Sunday. We were forced to go listen to it. The same message that he's saying right now. You got to do it twice as good, you got to be twice as better, and you have to understand what you have to do to exist in this racist, unconscious world. Mm-hmm. That pillar has been knocked out. We used to have a moral ground in our communities that doesn't exist for some than it did for others, that has been washed away. We need to rebuild there. We need to convince our people how to do things. You have to exercise. You have to go to school. School is available to everybody. It's free. Everybody has an opportunity. But you have to put your clothes on and go to school and engage that teacher and make yourself something. Nobody. HUD can't do that. I can't do it. Maybe God can. But you have to have that instilled in you. And this is what that man is saying. Let's kind of rebuild some of the things in our community that used to keep us whole.
Well, what I was going to say is, again, I'm not sure why Bill started his statement saying that's ridiculous after what he said, because the three of us are essentially saying the same thing. And this is what I mean about messaging and why people get confused and misunderstand you. So we're all saying the same thing. And when I'm advocating is engage Ben Carson. I'm advocating Ben Carson, before you make these statements, think clearly through the language and what you mean, because the way he presented that, if you have the right mindset, you got the wrong mindset, that's immediately going to victim blaming for most people hearing that. When he's actually saying something that I agree with, that I had to live out in my own life growing up in public housing. But what Bill is saying and what we just said.
And that's really the difference too. When you look at people who grow up in poverty and make it, quote unquote,
and a lot do,
but you look at them and you say, okay, what was the difference between that kid? You have two people side by side. It's just like the other what was the name of that book? The gentleman who was a Army veteran and then the guy in Baltimore that grew up. I can't think of the name of it right now. But at any rate, the point being, two people in the same circumstances. One rises, the other one stays and can't get out of the muck and the mire. So I see what he was saying, but again, the presentation.
Right. I got you. Bill. Let me just say this.
And then we're going to go to the phones because they're going crazy.
I was just in Baltimore. And then I went to the other side of Northern Virginia, out near Dulles Airport. It's two whole worlds, black and white. It's amazing the difference in everything. It's a whole new world.
Well, you can find that right here in the city.
Yeah, and
I mean,
and that is, I think, what he's saying. Don't trust government.
Oh, please.
Don't trust it.
Please stop. We are the government.
Okay, let me finish it. We only got a short period of time.
We are the government.
Okay. Then why did we have that same argument when President Obama was president and cut HBCU funding and Family Plus loans and Pell Grants and shifted funding to the Hispanics? Why weren't we hearing the same? I heard it from you, but why didn't I hear the same argument from the Democrats?
Well,
Eric,
what Bill is saying is that when he looked at those two areas, Northern Virginia and Baltimore, it was government policy that created the environment for the dilapidation of Baltimore. It was Mitt Romney's father, who was the Secretary of HUD at that time, that told Nixon, this policy that we're creating, we're going to create this mechanism where people are going to be trapped in poverty and can't get out. Basically what we have in Baltimore now. Nixon fired Mitt Romney's dad because that's exactly what they wanted to do. So as Will stated, we are the people of the government. Okay, government doesn't magically with fairy dust create these policies.
We are.
There are individuals that create these policies with a long-term plan to create certain situations and circumstances to benefit others and to disadvantage others. So we have to create good policy, as Will was stating, engage these agencies and make sure that good policy is created for our short-term and long-term health.
Just one more comment, I'm going to let it go because it came up yesterday. Morehouse, Howard, Hampton, Spelman were all there talking. And then you also had Georgetown and UVA and Harvard and MIT. You know what those groups did? They caucused among each other.
Which group?
The white group, Harvard, MIT, UVA. They caucused and came up with a plan to appreciate their position by working together in unison to get their individual efforts. You know what we were doing? All planning separately.
Why didn't you caucus with them?
I did. No,
with them?
No, I did. Oh, we do. But I'm just saying.
Why didn't you all join that caucus?
Can I finish? Oh, we do. Come on. We do. Well, no, we do. We're doing quite well.
No, I said all of you, not just you individually. I said why did you all say?
You won't let me finish. Let me finish.
Let him finish.
When I got my turn at the podium, I said we need to work together and we all need to caucus together. So let's figure out how we can do that. And it was well received. So once we decide what we want to set our own priorities, do our own plan, then we can have a better effort in getting the policies in place that's going to support all of us, which will be for the benefit of our communities as well.
Okay. Let me take a phone call. Michael joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Michael. You're on the air.
Thank you so much, Barbara.
Uh-huh.
Listen, you need to make a connection between Ben Carson and Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner's family built garden apartments in New York and on Long Island. And then their first big skyscraper project went kaput, 666 Fifth Avenue. You can read about this in the New York Times. But here's the thing. This connects to Mike Flynn because Jared Kushner's company was in big financial trouble, and we caught them. This was published in the newspapers. We caught them trying to take an investment of $1.4 billion from Chinese government officials. We also caught them trying to take investments from Japanese officials, and we caught them. This is all involving with Jared. We caught him trying to set up a deal building hotels with the Turkish government officials. So, when General Flynn got caught doing the same thing, he being the best friend of Jared Kushner in this administration, he giving him guidance on how to do these back-channel things. The reason why Donald Trump was so interested in getting this dropped is because it goes directly to Jared Kushner, and that goes directly to Donald Trump and their family of companies, and that goes directly to their tax returns and an inevitable impeachment of Donald Trump.
Okay, Michael, you said a mouthful. Let me let the panel respond. Thanks so much for your call. I saw you nodding, Will.
Let the process go. Pay attention, because what he's saying, what resonates with me so much is that so much of this is happening in open view. It's hidden in open public view. Like he said, reported in the New York Times, or exists in government documents. And what happens is people just get lazy and don't pay attention. Don't want to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. And there are dots to be connected.
I'm going to move on to the next topic only because we are really running out of time, and there's so much for us to talk about. So, a noose was found inside the National Museum of African American History and Culture and on a tree on the Smithsonian grounds. Someone spray painted the N-word on the gate leading to NBA great LeBron James' home in L.A., and 2 people died and 1 was seriously injured as they defended 2 Muslim women from a man yelling racial slurs at them. Now, so I want to listen to 2 clips before we talk. The first one is LeBron James, and the second, the mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler.
It just goes to show that that racism will always be a part of the world, a part of America, and hate, in America, especially for African American, is living every day. And even though that that it's concealed most of the time, even though people hide their faces and will say things about you, and when they see you, they smile in your face. It's alive every single day. And I think back to Emmett Till's mom, actually. It's kind of one of the first things I thought of. And the reason that she had a open casket is because she wanted to show the world what her son went through as far as a hate crime and, being black in America. So it's like no matter how much money you have, no matter how famous you are, no matter how many people admire you, being black in America is tough.
All of us standing here this afternoon are committed to ensuring that the killer will face justice. I want to reassure our neighbors and our fellow Portlanders, to those in the Muslim community who have just begun observing Ramadan, know that Portland stands by you. To our immigrant communities, you have our support. We will do everything in our power to ensure that people of all races and ethnicities are safe in our city. There is too much hatred in the world right now, and far too much violence. Our current political climate allows far too much room for those who spread bigotry. Violent words can lead to violent acts. All elected leaders in America, all people of good conscience, must work deliberately to change our political dialogue.
So I just keep wondering as I look at all these different things that keep happening. And were we that naive that we really thought things had changed?
That's what I'm saying.
Or is it because of social media and everything else that everybody's just putting it out there and we're just much more exposed to it? Eric, I'll start with you.
Yeah, as African Americans, I don't think none of us were deceived. I think that popular culture and the media try to, at every turn, turn the corner on racism, say we've turned the corner. When Barack Obama was elected, I never forget, there was the CNN, and they were there on the platform. We're post-racial. It happened. Should we end affirmative action? It's done. It's like, guys, look, it's only going to get worse. But I want to say hats off to LeBron James. I'm a huge LeBron James fan.
I guess we know which way you're going in the playoffs.
Definitely. But I respect him so much as not just an athlete, but as a young man who's handled the spotlight, coming from an unstable home, and I mean just what he's done, and as you say, he's done it the right way. And the reason why I respect him so much, because with his power, with his influence in the world, as the second wealthiest and most recognized athlete in the world, he spoke up and has constantly spoken up and taken a stand on racism. Michael Jordan never did that. As it relates to his tennis shoes, people killing each other over that. Now, Michael Jordan he recently wrote a piece saying that, I'm hardened by what's going on in America, and he donated $1 million. And I said, nobody cares because you're not relevant anymore. At the height of his relevance, he's speaking out. But as it relates to the racism, this is something that has been going on since Barack Obama, the environment that we have now, where people are just currently outwardly with it. This was created in part by the Republican Party and the Tea Party and the birthers, because they started with this message, this underrumbling, this code, Goldwater race message, and it just rose to the top. If you notice, during the time of Obama's 8 years, the hate group and white supremacist groups quadrupled under his administration. Those groups have not been labeled as terrorist organizations. They have not. And we have a president in office who wrote the birther, who wrote the Tea Party mantra into the White House. And he's speaking from the heart of this 42% of Americans that stand for this. And you can see it here in Virginia. Torches around these monuments that represent a history and legacy of hatred and bigotry and discrimination. Torches. When's the last time we saw that? What happened in Portland? Keep in mind, Portland has at one time had the largest KKK membership per capita because the state of Oregon was created as a white-only state, through government policy.
Same as Virginia.
African Americans could not move there. So the settlement of Oregon was white only. So I'm not surprised it happened in Portland. I'm not surprised it happened there. I'm not surprised what's happening now. But I will say the responsibility is all Americans. But right now, and I've said this before in our Race Talks Matters, the people that can stand up and solve this race problem are white Americans. Because they are the individuals. I mean, we've been there before. Frederick Douglass, been there, done that. Booker T. Washington, been there, done that. Martin Luther King, been there, done that. Rosa Parks, been there, done that. Medgar Evers, been there, done that. How many more examples do you need of people who are being oppressed and discriminated against to stand up with courage and risk their lives to stand up for what's right? This is the opportunity now for white America to say, you know what? This has been a part of our nation for over 400 years, almost 400 years now. We're not going to stand for it anymore. And to confront these institutions and individuals that perpetrate these types of acts.
There you go. When LeBron James left Cleveland and went to Miami, he was burned in efficacy on Cleveland streets by black and white folks. I admired what he's done. It's been a good thing. I admired what Michael Jordan did. He said he was about business, make money. He has a right to do that. But for a billionaire who has 3 mansions with a wall around them, and gated fences to sit here and say that he's upset about this. There's nothing changed. Tear down his walls. Open his gates. So maybe somebody won't do that word on his gates. I think there's just that was probably the most disappointing discussion that I've heard. I am not waiting for white people to do anything for me. You left a name out in yours, Eric. How about John Brown? I think that until we decide what we're going to do to protect our families and grow and educate ourselves so we can take care of ourselves. I lived in a Jewish community growing up. And the thing that I consistently was told or asked by them, why do you people still worship the God of your enslaver? And we had good discussions about that. And I understand what I have to do to connect with my good white friends and Jewish friends and everybody. This is not just a black thing anymore. In America, as Ben Carson has said, which I agree, you can accomplish anything that you want to if you're willing to put things in place and priorities in place to make that happen. There's no better place on the face of the earth.
So, Bill, you really still believe that institutionally there aren't things that will stop you if you are a person of color?
It doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do. Yes, you have to protect yourself. See, when we were raised in our little Fort Leavenworth and Fort Riley and Fort Hood communities, we thought the best amendment for Americans was the Second Amendment. We didn't need the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment. Amendments and laws and policies don't mean anything if you can't protect them yourself. Don't mean a doggone thing. It's worthless. So what I think we need to do is get out of this shell of looking for white people to come and help us and help ourselves by doing collective actions, by taking care of our own communities. Here's what we don't talk about. We don't talk about the murders, the 3 shootings or 4 shootings they had in Hampton on Monday or Tuesday. We didn't talk about the murders that are in Portsmouth and Norfolk of our children's blood being, garbaged down the gutters of America. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about in an unfortunate situation where black men aren't doing what they need to do to protect their families and do things that they need to do. We don't talk about that anymore. We talk about looking for government, good-thinking white people to do things that we have to do for ourselves. And we were raised differently.
Well,
Carter G. Woodson in the Miseducation of Negro talked about many things he said is if you teach a man to think less of himself, you won't have to do anything to force him to be in a lesser state. He'll seek the back of the bus. He'll seek the reduced state himself. Why is it that as black people, here LeBron James had nigger written on his wall,
I thought you could
and
say
now
that
we're
word.
saying,
yeah, I know.
I'm
We're
sorry.
going to say the N-word.
The N-word. I'm sorry. FCC, I'm sorry.
No, be politically correct now.
But he had that written on his wall.
By who?
By someone. And so now we're turning to him and saying he should behave in a manner that somehow makes
We'll keep them from putting the N-word on the thing.
And keep the right. I mean, what is about our mentality that we would make such a statement? Which is what I just heard from Bill.
You didn't hear
essentially. That's what I just heard. So what I'm saying is the only thing I disagree with what LeBron James, and I have tremendous respect for him, even though I don't want him, I want KD to get his jewelry, is that he said that racism will always be with us. I disagree with that in the sense that because racism is something that's learned. Absolutely. So if it's learned, then if we make a commitment to unlearn ourselves, to recondition our minds, to reformat our mental hard drives, it does not have to be forever present with us. And so because we have not, as a nation, taken that serious step of really undoing this and really educating ourselves, and it continues to permeate throughout all of our institutions and these incidences and these
So if
continue to come
racism
up.
is a learned behavior,
That's true.
then if all of us, Bill, white people and black people, unlearn racism, then to
No.
me, that's the only way that's going to change.
No, here's my little point. And I'll let you go.
Okay,
My
and
little
we
point
got
is,
like 3 minutes left, so come on.
My little point. I love LeBron. I'm from Cleveland. I've lived there forever. What he should have done, what I should have done, and a lot more done, we should have stayed in our communities and contributed there. We should have built our mansions in our own communities. We should have contributed to the building of our schools ourselves. That's what we have not learned to do. And that's got nothing to do about no back
Tulsa,
door.
Oklahoma was burned down.
Yeah.
Hampton,
That was 100
downtown
years ago.
Hampton was burned down.
Yeah.
These are all places with black people, stayed in the community, built up their community, was acquiring wealth. And because they were acquiring wealth in a system that people did not want to see that, they were burnt down. So what are you talking about?
Right. And look, I agree with LeBron James when he said racism will always be with us, because it by being a learned behavior, you have institutions that create an environment to teach this. You're always going to have friction in a society where one group has to be in control of the other or in control of the resources. So because our institutions are created as they are, you're going to have that. But I want to make a distinction very quickly between the Jewish American experience and the African American experience. Our experience is very different. I think the Jewish American experience is a great story that should be told. They've done a lot of great things in business and banking and entertainment, now in government, in education, and so forth. However, there was a creation of a base outside of this country that they were able to bring over into this country. African Americans arrived here in chains. Okay, Africans, 1619, right here at Port Comfort. We had 247 years of chain slavery, okay? No laws, no rights, no inheritance, nothing, all right? The next 2/8 of our existence was Jim Crow. The suppression of the new laws and the new freed African Americans. In other words, at every turn, you had institutions created by people in government that stopped you from getting ahead. The 7/8, and we've been here 400 years, the last 50 years is the only time period in African American history that we've had the opportunity to fully participate in the American dream.
Fully.
Well, I didn't have no chains on me when I started walking. And I also did not allow. Sure, there's institutionalized racism.
Okay, 30 seconds.
We look at it all the time. We look at institutionalized racism. It's here today. The state of Commonwealth of Virginia won't support a proton therapy institute where we're saving 2,000 lives and 37% of them are African Americans. So there is institutionalized racism. Mm-hmm. The issue is, do you give up or do you continue the fight? Do you break the chains and put all that other stuff behind you, and then you move forward?
Obviously, LeBron James, obviously he has done that. And obviously that's not the issue that we're discussing.
No, it is the issue, in my opinion.
Well, guess what, guys? We're out of time. But thank you so much, as always, Roundtable. I so appreciate it. I do want to invite the audience to two quick things that I'm participating in. I hope you will come out and say hello. From the Ashes is going to be shown. It's a movie about the coal industry and what's going on with coal and our health and so forth. It is being shown on this coming Monday, the 12th of June. The reception is at 6 p.m. and the film is at 7 p.m. It is at the ODU University Theater, which is at 4800 Hampton Boulevard right here in Norfolk. It is free and open to everyone. I'm moderating the panel discussion right after the movie, so come on out and participate. And this Sunday, I will be the MC for Healthy Suffolk. Don't forget, Daryl Haley, you heard him on the show a couple weeks ago, will be the guest speaker. Come on out to the Planters Club in Suffolk and join us. That's at 5 p.m. If you want more information, go to artofsupper.org. And I so appreciate everyone for joining us today. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer sitting in for Victor Bowen. And Trey Watson answered our phones. I'm Barbara Hamley. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening to Another View.